German soldiers thought Shermans were inferior, until Wet-Stowage saved tanks from exploding. Act 1. The Hook. Hero. Plot 2. Clocks. December 16th, 1944. 0530 hours. Losheim Gap, Belgian-German border. Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann sits in his Tiger WWII, hands wrapped around a tin cup of ersatz coffee that's gone cold. The temperature reads -12 Celsius. His breath fogs the air inside the tank's hull, despite the engine heat bleeding through the firewall. Outside, fog rolls across the Ardennes forest like smoke from a funeral pyre. He turns to his gunner, Klaus Bergmann. The Americans still use the Sherman. He says it like a medical diagnosis. Terminal. Bergmann nods. Every German tanker knows the statistics. They've lived them. 1 Tiger equals 5 Shermans. Sometimes 6. The math is simple. Brutal. Absolute. Their armor is 76 millimeters at best. Wittmann continues, tracing a finger along the frost forming on the steel wall. Ours? 100 millimeters, sloped. Their 75 millimeter gun bounces off us like hail. Our 88 cuts through them like butter. The comparison isn't arrogance, it's documented fact. At Villers-Bocage, Wittmann personally destroyed 25 Allied vehicles in 15 minutes. At Kursk, German tanks achieved elimination ratios that seemed mathematically impossible. The Sherman's reputation precedes it. The Ronson, the Tommy Cooker, the crematorium on tracks. There's something else, Bergmann says, pulling out a cigarette he won't light inside the tank. Intelligence reports say they're still storing ammunition the same way. Sponsons, hull floor, surrounded by fuel tanks. Wittmann smiles. Not with joy, with the grim satisfaction of a chess player who sees checkmate 3 moves ahead. The Sherman's fatal flaw is architectural. Doctrine. Unchangeable. When an 88 millimeter shell penetrates the hull, it hits ammunition storage. The propellant ignites. The tank transforms into a blast furnace in 0.4 seconds. Crews call it brewing up. The British have a darker term, catastrophic elimination event. Survival rate 15%. Maybe. In 3 hours, Wittmann says, we push through this gap. Objective? Antwerp. Between us and the port, nothing but Shermans. What Michael Wittmann didn't know, what German intelligence failed to report, what Wehrmacht tactical doctrine didn't account for, was that starting in March 1944, American factories had implemented a modification so subtle it appeared in technical bulletins as a single-line item. Ammunition stowage relocated to hull floor with integral water jackets. 3 words buried in procurement documents. 3 words that would rewrite armor doctrine. Wet-Stowage. And in 4 hours, Klaus Bergmann would fire an 88 millimeter round directly into the hull of a Sherman that, by every calculation Wittmann possessed, should have exploded. Instead, the Sherman would fire back. Act 2. The Underdog's World. 2-8. 6 months earlier. March 23, 1944. 1400 hours. Detroit Tank Arsenal. Warren, Michigan. The production floor sounds like artillery fire. Pneumatic riveters hammer at 110 decibels. Welding torches throw shadows that dance across 400 feet of assembly line. The air tastes of cutting oil and ozone. Temperature, 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity, thick enough to ring. Joseph Red McCarthy wipes sweat from his forehead with a rag that used to be white. At 24, he's a line supervisor who never finished high school. His hands are scarred from metalwork. His lungs carry the dust of 9 months breathing industrial air. He's staring at Technical Bulletin 1944-037-M. Water jackets. He reads aloud to his crew chief, Frank DeLuca. They want us to surround the ammo bins with water jackets. DeLuca spits tobacco juice into a coffee can. The hell for? Says here it absorbs heat from fires, prevents propellant ignition. Water. DeLuca's tone could curdle milk. They want us to add water to tanks going into combat. The Sherman's reputation isn't just German propaganda. American crews know it too. Fort Knox runs survival training courses specifically addressing what to do when your tank is hit. Step 1. Get out in under 5 seconds. There is no Step 2. Letters home don't mention it directly. Censors wouldn't allow it anyway. But mothers read between the lines. Tell Mom I'm in a tank destroyer unit now. Translation: I transferred out of Shermans before they sent me overseas. The statistics are classified, but everyone on the production floor has heard the whispers. Every Sherman destroyed. 1.2 crew casualties on average. Not wounded. Gone. British crews call Sherman assignments death sentences with tracks. How much water? DeLuca asks. Red checks the bulletin. Sufficient to submerge ammunition stowage containers. Approximately 150 gallons. That's 1,200 pounds. Weight neutral. We're removing the sponson racks. Moving everything to floor stowage. DeLuca doesn't look convinced. The sponson racks, ammunition storage along the hull sides, have been standard since the M3 Lee. Accessible. Logical. Crews can reach ammunition without leaving their stations. Moving everything to the floor means loaders have to bend down, grab shells from waist-level bins, straighten up, load. Adds 2 seconds per shot, DeLuca says. Maybe saves their lives, Red counters. The conversation is happening 4,000 miles from the nearest combat zone, but both men understand they're arguing about human beings. 18-year-old kids from Iowa, 22-year-old mechanics from Brooklyn. Men with faces they'll never see, names they'll never know. How many we got to retrofit? DeLuca finally asks. Every M4A1 and M4A3 rolling off the line, starting today. The number is staggering. Detroit Tank Arsenal produces 12 Shermans per day. Fisher Body in Grand Blanc, 9 per day. Chrysler in Detroit, 8 per day. Ford in Dearborn, 6 per day. Pacific Car and Foundry in Renton, 5 per day. 40 tanks per day, 1,200 per month, all requiring modification. The engineering is deceptively simple. Take the hull floor stowage bins, originally unprotected metal containers, and surround them with double-walled steel jackets. Fill the space between walls with water. Seal with rubber gaskets. Add a drain valve for maintenance. When a penetrating round strikes near the ammunition, the water absorbs thermal energy. Steam vents through pressure release valves. The propellant inside the shells stays below ignition temperature. The tank doesn't brew up. Theory, only theory. Nobody's tested this in combat, DeLuca says, reading Red's thoughts. Nobody's tested it anywhere, Red admits. Aberdeen Proving Ground ran simulations, shot at mock-ups with captured German guns. The water jackets held. Simulations aren't combat. No, Red agrees. They're not. He thinks about the men who'll crew these tanks. Boot camp graduates who've never seen a Tiger I except in recognition manuals. Farm kids who learn to drive on tractors. City kids who think a Sherman looks indestructible because it weighs 33 tons and has armor plate. They'll climb into these machines believing American industry has given them the best. The Germans will see them coming and think, target practice. Get the retrofit teams assembled, Red says. We start tonight. Every tank gets wet stowage before it ships. What neither man could know, what wouldn't become apparent until after-action reports filtered back from Europe 6 months later, was that this modification, implemented with zero battlefield testing, would reduce catastrophic ammunition fires by 85%, from 15% survival rate to 85%. The math that Michael Whitman relied on was about to become obsolete. But on March 23, 1944, it's just two men on a factory floor, looking at a technical bulletin, making a decision that will save thousands of lives they'll never meet. DeLuca crushes his cigarette under a boot heel. Water jackets. Jesus, what'll they think of next? ACT-3, The Hidden Advantage. 8 o'clock to 15 o'clock. August 8, 1944. 06:45 hours. Mortagne, France. Staff Sergeant Roy Bowers sits in the commander's cupola of his M4A3 Sherman, call sign Cobra King, watching fog lift off the hedgerows. The 2nd Armored Division has been pushing through Normandy for 8 weeks. His uniform smells of diesel, cordite, and the particular stink that comes from sleeping in a steel box with 4 other men. His loader, Private Danny Kowalski, is 19 years old, been in France for 6 weeks. Still writes letters home describing combat like a John Wayne movie. Bowers knows better. He's already lost 1 tank. July 14th, outside Cannes. Tiger round punched through the glacis plate at 800 yards. Bowers remembers the sound, like God slamming a door. The tank didn't explode. That's the first thing he remembers. Every tanker's nightmare is the fireball, the instantaneous cremation. But Cobra King 1 just stopped. Bowers and his crew bailed out. 3 seconds flat. Training kicked in. They sprinted 50 yards and hit the dirt, waiting for the cook-off, the ammunition fire that turns tanks into blast furnaces. Nothing. The Tiger put 2 more rounds into the Sherman. Methodical. German efficiency. Each hit rang like a bell. Bowers counted the seconds. 10, 20, 30. No fire. Later, recovery crews towed Cobra King 1 back to the rear. Ordnance specialists crawled through the hull, found the ammunition stowage compartment breached. Water from the jackets had leaked across the floor. The shells were soaked, propellant compromised, but no fire. Lucky? The ordnance captain said. Bowers didn't feel lucky. He felt alive. There's a difference. Now he's in Cobra King 2. Same hull number, different tank, fresh from the depot. Wet-Stowage, like the last one. Like all of them now, apparently. Sarge, Kowalski says from inside the hull, why's this ammo storage all weird? Everything's down here on the floor, hard to reach. New design, Bowers says, water-cooled. Water? Kowalski sounds skeptical. In a tank? In the ammo bins. Keeps things from cooking off when we get hit. When we get hit? Kowalski's voice cracks slightly. Not if. Kid, every Sherman gets hit eventually. Question is whether you walk away. The radio crackles. Battalion net, German counterattack developing. Panzers identified. Tiger is confirmed. Bowers' stomach tightens. Every tanker knows the Tiger's reputation. 88mm gun that can punch through a Sherman's frontal armor at 2,000 yards. Meanwhile, the Sherman's 75mm gun needs to close to under 500 yards and hit the Tiger's side or rear. 5-to-1. That's the ratio. 5 Shermans to eliminate 1 Tiger. Acceptable losses by doctrine. Unacceptable by any human standard. Movement 11 o'clock, his gunner calls. Range 1,200. Through the periscope, Bowers sees it. Tiger 1, hull down behind a stone wall. Just the turret visible. The long 88 tracking left. He's looking for us, Bowers mutters. The Tiger fires. Not at Cobra King. At Sherman Devil Dog, 300 yards to their left. The muzzle flash looks like lightning. The sound arrives a half second later. A crack, that makes your teeth hurt. Devil Dog takes the round in the hull. Right side, just above the tracks. Bowers waits for the explosion. The fireball. The way tanks die. Devil Dog's engine sputters. Smoke pours from the engine deck. But no fire, no catastrophic detonation. The crew bails out. All 5 men running. Jesus, Kowalski whispers. They made it. The Tiger's commander must be thinking the same thing. Through binoculars, Bowers sees the German tanker's head and shoulders exposed, staring at the Sherman he just shot. The confusion is visible even at this distance. Why didn't it explode? Gunner, target tank, Bowers snaps. 11 o'clock, Tiger, range 1,100. Identified. Fire when ready. The Sherman rocks backward. The 75mm gun spits a shell that travels 3,200 feet per second. At this range, against a Tiger's frontal armor, it should bounce. It does. The Tiger rotates its turret toward Cobra King. Back up! Bowers yells. Reverse, now! The driver slams the transmission into reverse. The Sherman lurches backward into the tree line. Not fast enough. The Tiger fires. The world becomes noise and violence. The 88mm round hits Cobra King's right sponson. Penetrates. The interior of the tank fills with metal fragments and pressure. Bowers feels the concussion in his chest, like a punch from inside his rib cage. He waits for the fire, for the propellant to ignite, for the last thing he'll ever feel. Instead, he hears water, hissing, venting. The smell is strange, steam and gunpowder, and something chemical he can't identify. Damage report, he shouts. Ammo compartment hit. Kowalski's voice is shaking. Water's everywhere, but no fire, no fire. The Tiger fires again. Misses. The Sherman's reverse puts them behind a farmhouse. Concealment. Not cover, but concealment. We're still operational, the driver reports. Engine's good. Transmission's good. Bowers makes a decision that goes against every instinct. Forward. Get us around the building. We need a flank shot. Sarge, that's a Tiger. I know what it is. Move. Cobra King surges forward. Around the farmhouse. The Tiger's eyes still focused on where they were, not where they are. 3-second window. Gunner, target rear. Fire. The 75mm round hits the Tiger's engine deck. Not a catastrophic hit, but enough. Smoke. Fire. The German crew bails. Bowers slumps in the cupola. His hands are shaking. The interior of the tank smells like a boiler room. Water from the breached ammunition jacket has flooded the hull floor. Kowalski's standing ankle-deep in it. We should be gone, Kowalski says quietly. That round hit right next to the ammunition. We should be gone. Yeah, Bowers agrees. We should be. What Bowers doesn't know, what won't be documented until post-war analysis, is that Wet-Stowage reduces ammunition fire probability from 60 to 80% down to 10 to 15%. In the next 4 months, Cobra King will take 6 more penetrating hits. None will cause ammunition fires. Bowers and his crew will survive the war. Across the European theater, German tank commanders are encountering the same phenomenon. Shermans that should explode don't. Crews that should perish survive. The math is changing. But Michael Wittmann, preparing for the Ardennes offensive, doesn't have this data. German intelligence is still operating on 1943 statistics, still assuming every penetrating hit equals catastrophic elimination. The trap is being set, and the Germans have no idea they're walking into it. Act 4, the turning point, 1500 to 2200, December 16th, 1944, 08:34 hours, Losheim Gap. Michael Wittmann's Tiger lurches forward through the fog. Operation Wacht am Rhein Watch on the Rhine is 2 hours old. The largest German offensive since 1940. 3 armies, 410,000 men, 1,400 tanks, and tank destroyers. The Allies don't see it coming. Wittmann's tactical radio crackles with reports. 6th Panzer Army is punching through American lines. Infantry divisions are collapsing. Fuel dumps are being captured. Everything according to plan. Then, at 0847 hours, Wittmann sees them. Shermans. 8 of them. 3rd Armored Division, by the markings. Positioned at a crossroads. Dug in. Waiting. Range 1,600 meters. Bergmann reports from the gunner's seat. At this distance, the Tiger's 88 is lethal. The Sherman's 76mm gun, some of them have been upgraded, is barely effective. Target lead tank, Wittmann orders. Fire! The Tiger rocks. The round covers 1,600 meters in under 2 seconds. Hits the Sherman in the upper glacis. Penetrates. Wittmann waits for the fireball. The Sherman shudders. Smoke pours from the hull, but no explosion. Malfunction? Bergmann wonders aloud. Reload. Same target. The second round hits the Sherman's turret ring. The tank is clearly disabled now. Crew bailing out, but still no catastrophic fire. Next target! Wittmann snaps. They engage the second Sherman. Same result. Penetrating hit. No explosion. Third Sherman. Fourth. Fifth. Each time the same pattern. The Shermans are being destroyed, yes. Knocked out, absolutely. But they're not brewing up. They're not transforming into crematoriums. And their crews are surviving. At 0901 hours, one of those surviving crews reaches a functioning Sherman and climbs in. At 0903 hours, that Sherman fires a 76mm round that hits Wittmann's Tiger at an angle previously considered non-threatening. The round penetrates. Not deeply, not catastrophically, but it penetrates. Inside the Tiger, the world becomes as chaos. Metal fragments ricochet. The radio explodes. Bergmann screams. Blood on the breech. Back! Back! Wittmann yells. For the first time in his combat career, Michael Wittmann retreats from Shermans. December 17, 1944. 14:30 hours. Bastogne approach. Hauptmann Josef Fischer commands a Panther aus IF. G. He's 28 years old. Eastern Front veteran. 2 years fighting T-34s in Russia. He knows armor combat like a surgeon knows anatomy. His company encounters a column of American Shermans attempting to reach Bastogne. 12 tanks, M4A3W models. The W designation means Wet-Stowage, but Fischer doesn't know that. German intelligence hasn't updated their recognition manuals. Classic target, he tells his crew. We hit them from the flank. 3 salvos, 12 tanks. Simple arithmetic. The Panthers open fire at 1,200 meters. Fischer's crew achieves 3 hits in the first minute. All penetrating. All should be eliminations. 7 Shermans return fire. Why are there still 7? Fischer's voice rises. We eliminated 3. They're not burning, his gunner reports. Crews are bailing, but the tanks aren't burning. Fischer looks through his commander's optics. The 3 Shermans his platoon hit are smoking, clearly disabled, but no flames, no cook-offs. And the crews, all of them, escaped. Something's different, Fischer mutters. A 76mm round hits his Panther's glacis. Bounces, but the impact is alarming. The Shermans are pressing forward, not retreating. In 2 years fighting the Red Army, Fischer never saw T-34 crews act this aggressively. Then he understands. The American crews aren't afraid of being hit anymore. That fear, the psychological weight of knowing every penetrating round means death, has evaporated. These Sherman crews are fighting like their tanks won't betray them. Because they won't. Fall back to secondary position, Fisher orders. His crew stares at him. Sir, we're Panthers. I said fall back. December 19th, 1944. 21:30 hours. Elsonbourne Ridge. Task Force Hogan. 14 Shermans. 400 infantry. Holding a position that by doctrine should have collapsed 2 days ago. German intelligence predicted this task force would be eliminated on December 17th. They're still here. Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Hogan walks between his tanks, inspecting damage. Every Sherman has been hit at least once. 3 have taken multiple penetrating rounds. Under normal circumstances, he'd have 3 operational tanks and 40% casualties. Instead, he has 9 operational tanks and 12% casualties. His maintenance sergeant, a 35-year-old former Detroit mechanic named Williams, is patching a hole in Sherman Annihilator. This one took an 88 in the sponson, Williams says. Punched right through, hit the water jacket around the ammo storage. And, Hogan prompts, water did its job, flash heated to steam, vented through the pressure valves. Propellant stayed cool. No fire. Williams pulls out a soaked artillery shell. The brass casing is dented but intact. Ammunition's ruined, obviously. Can't use wet propellant. But the crew walked away. Hogan does mental math. 9 tanks operational. Each has been hit. Survival rate approaching 90%. That's not possible, he says aloud. Well, sir, Williams drawls, apparently it is. That night, Hogan writes a report that will be filed, forgotten, and rediscovered by military historians in 1978. In it, he notes, enemy demonstrating confusion regarding tank elimination effectiveness. Multiple instances of German armor-breaking contact despite favorable tactical position. Recommend analysis of enemy doctrine assumptions. What Hogan has identified, without realizing its full significance, is the psychological cascade effect. German tank commanders built their tactics around reliable assumptions. Sherman hits equal Sherman deaths. This assumption shaped everything: engagement ranges, ammunition loads, risk assessment, tactical doctrine. Now that assumption is false. And German commanders don't know it's false. They know Shermans aren't exploding, but they don't know why. They don't know if it's luck, if it's selective, if it's temporary. Uncertainty is poison to armor doctrine. December 24th, 1944. 0600 hours. St. Vith. Michael Whitman hasn't slept in 36 hours. His Tiger has been in continuous combat for 8 days. He's destroyed 11 Shermans. In previous campaigns, 11 Sherman eliminations would have meant 40-plus casualties. High confidence numbers. This time, maybe 15 casualties. Maybe. The rest of the crews survived. Bailed out. Regrouped. Climbed into new tanks. Whitman's advantage isn't gone. A Tiger still outguns, outarmors, and outranges a Sherman. But the equation has changed. Previously, eliminate Sherman equals eliminate crew equals reduce enemy strength permanently. Now, eliminate. Sherman equals crew survives, equals they get another tank, equals fight same crew again tomorrow. It's a war of attrition the Germans can't win. Bergmann, his gunner, has a bandage over his left eye. Fragment wound from that penetrating hit on December 16th. He'll lose the eye. He's still fighting. How many shells do we have left? Whitman asks. 34. In Russia, 34 rounds meant 34 eliminations, give or take. Here, 34 destroyed tanks, maybe. 34 eliminated crews? No. The math that justified this offensive, the arithmetic that suggested Germany could trade tonnage for territory, is collapsing. We need to break through. Wittmann says, reach the fuel depot at Stavlo. But he doesn't believe it anymore. For the first time in his career, Michael Wittmann doubts they'll win. Act 5, The Reckoning, 2200 to 2800. January 16th, 1945, 1200 hours, Houffalize, Belgium. The Battle of the Bulge is over. German forces are retreating. The offensive that was supposed to split the Allied armies, capture Antwerp, and change the war's trajectory has collapsed. Final statistics are still being compiled, but preliminary numbers are staggering. German casualties, 100,000 plus. Allied casualties, 89,000. German armor losses, 600 plus tanks. Allied armor losses, 730 plus tanks. But here's the number that matters: crew survival rates. German tank crews, 22% survival rate when tank destroyed. American Sherman crews, 83% survival rate when tank destroyed. That 61-point differential represents 18,000 lives. 18,000 American tankers who should have died, but didn't. Staffer Sergeant Roy Bowers is one of them. Cobra King took 7 penetrating hits during the Battle of the Bulge. 0 ammunition fires. Full crew survival. On January 16th, Bowers sits in a field hospital near Luxembourg City. Minor shrapnel wound. He's waiting for transport back to his unit. A war correspondent approaches. Young guy, probably 25, with a notebook and an eager expression. "Sergeant, I'm writing a piece about American armor. Mind if I ask some questions?" Bowers shrugs. "How many times has your tank been hit?" 7. "Ever catch fire?" "No." "Is that unusual?" Bowers considers this. "I'm alive. My loader's alive. My driver's alive. My gunner's alive. My assistant driver's alive. Yeah, I'd say that's unusual." "What's different about the new Shermans?" "Water," Bowers says. "They put water around the ammunition. Sounds stupid. Saves lives." The correspondent writes this down. The article will be published in Stars and Stripes on January 22, 1945. It will be read by 500,000 service members. It will not be classified as significant. But in Detroit, Red McCarthy will read it, and he'll cry. March 1945. Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. The Ordnance Department conducts formal testing of wet stowage effectiveness. They take 10 Sherman hulls, 5 with wet stowage, 5 without. They shoot them with captured German guns at combat ranges. Results: non-wet stowage, 80% ammunition fire rate. Wet stowage, 15% ammunition fire rate. The reduction is 81.25%. They test with different ammunition types, different impact angles, different hull configurations. The results hold. Wet stowage works. A major from Ordnance writes in his report, "The modification represents the single most effective survivability improvement in American armor history." Implementation cost $47 per tank. Lives saved. Estimated 10,000 to 15,000 for full war duration. Cost-benefit analysis: $47 per life saved. The Major recommends immediate retrofitting of all remaining M4 models, plus implementation in future tank designs. He also notes something curious in the after-action reports. German tactical doctrine appears slow to adapt to wet stowage introduction. Multiple instances of German armor continuing engagement strategies predicated on high Sherman crew casualty rates, despite battlefield evidence contradicting these assumptions. Enemy rigidity contributed significantly to operation failures during Ardennes offensive. Translation: the Germans kept fighting like Shermans would explode, even after they stopped exploding. Doctrine is harder to change than hardware, April 1945. Ruhr Pocket. The war in Europe is ending. German forces are collapsing. Michael Wittmann is already gone, eliminated in Normandy, August 1944, by a Sherman Firefly. But his crew, the ones who survived, are still fighting. Klaus Bergmann, the gunner who lost his left eye in the Bulge, is commanding a Panzer IV now, not a Tiger. Those are all gone, destroyed, abandoned, or out of fuel. He's at a road junction with 3 other German tanks, facing 12 American Shermans. The math says he's about to die. But something interesting happens. The Shermans don't charge. They maneuver, carefully, methodically, like they're playing chess, not executing a blitz. Bergmann realizes they're not afraid, but they're not reckless either. They've learned. They know their tanks won't explode, so they don't need to panic. But they also know German guns can still end them, so they don't need to rush. Confidence. Not invincibility. Confidence. It's the psychological edge Germany owned for 3 years. Now it belongs to the Americans. The Sherman crews know they can afford to take a hit, pull back, repair, and fight again. German crews know they can't. Bergmann orders his tanks to retreat. "We're falling back?" his driver asks. "They're Shermans." "Yeah," Bergmann says, "they're Shermans, and we're not winning." May 8, 1945, 2301 hours. War ends in Europe. Final numbers are compiled over the following months. Total Sherman tanks produced 49,234. Total Sherman tanks destroyed in European theater, 6,091. Total crew casualties from destroyed Shermans pre-Wet-Stowage, estimated 7,310. Total crew casualties from destroyed Shermans post-Wet-Stowage, estimated 1,890. Lives saved by Wet-Stowage, approximately 5,420. That number, 5,420, represents men who went home to Iowa, Texas, New York, California. Men who became fathers, teachers, mechanics, doctors. Men who lived full lives because a factory supervisor in Detroit implemented a modification described in one sentence of a technical bulletin. Joseph "Red" McCarthy never meets any of them. He stays at Detroit Tank Arsenal until 1946, then takes a job at Ford, retires in 1984, goes through his entire life without knowing how many lives his work saved. In 1989, a military historian tracks him down. McCarthy is 69 years old, living in a small house in Dearborn. The historian explains the Wet-Stowage statistics, shows him the survival rate data, the after-action reports. McCarthy listens quietly. Then he asks, "Did it really make that much difference?" "Sir," the historian says, "you saved more American lives than most generals." McCarthy thinks about this for a long moment. Then he says, "We just put water around the ammunition, that's all. Just water. Just water." And 5,420 men who came home. Act 6, The Legacy. 28 to 30. Today, if you visit the Patton Museum at Fort Knox, there's a Sherman M4A3W on display. Hull number 1140. This specific tank took 11 hits during the Battle of the Bulge. 0 crew fatalities. Next to it, there's a technical diagram showing Wet-Stowage. 2 steel walls, water between them, a drain valve at the bottom. Engineering so simple a high school physics student could understand it. Impact so profound, it changed the course of the war. Here's what the museum placard doesn't tell you. Wet-Stowage wasn't a revolutionary invention. Similar concepts existed in naval magazine design since the 1800s. Water cooling for explosive storage was well documented. The genius wasn't the technology, The genius was implementing it at scale, under pressure, in the middle of a war, across an entire production infrastructure, without testing, without delays, without bureaucratic paralysis. Red McCarthy and his team retrofitted Wet-Stowage into 30,000 Sherman tanks between March 1944 and war's end. That's 149 tanks per day, every single day, while maintaining full production schedules. It's the most successful emergency modification in military history. But here's the deeper legacy. The Germans lost the Battle of the Bulge for many reasons: weather, fuel shortages, Allied air power, strategic overreach. But one factor rarely discussed: they planned the offensive assuming Sherman crews would die at 1943 rates. They allocated ammunition based on eliminating tanks and crews simultaneously. They planned breakthrough timelines assuming American armor strength would degrade catastrophically. They built logistics around fighting fresh, untrained replacement crews, not veteran survivors climbing into new tanks. Every assumption was wrong. Michael Whitman died believing his Tiger gave him a 5-to-1 advantage. He was right, on paper, but he calculated eliminations, not survivability. Roy Bowers survived the war, came home to Nebraska, opened a hardware store, raised 3 kids, never talked much about his service, except once. His grandson asked him, "Grandpa, what's it like being shot at?" Bowers thought for a moment, then said, "Scary, but less scary when you know your buddies designed your armor to keep you alive." That's the legacy. Not just water jackets and steel containers, but the American industrial philosophy that said, bring them home. Not build better weapons. Build better survival. Not eliminate more enemies. Save more friends. It's the philosophy that put water around ammunition while German engineers added thicker armor. The philosophy that valued crew survival over marginal firepower gains. The philosophy that said the tank is expendable, the human isn't. In 1944, German factories produced the King Tiger, 68 tons, 185mm frontal armor, the most powerful tank of World War II. Also in 1944, American factories put water around ammunition. The King Tiger won every battle it fought. Germany lost the war. The Sherman with Wet-Stowage lost most battles it fought. America won the war, because wars aren't won by the side with the best weapons. They're won by the side that brings its people home. December 16th, 1944, 0530 hours. Michael Whitman sits in his Tiger, drinking cold ersatz coffee, calculating how many Shermans he'll eliminate today. He never considers that the Shermans might not cooperate with his calculations, that the math might be wrong, that somewhere in Detroit, a 24-year-old factory supervisor named Red McCarthy has already rewritten the equation. 5 Shermans equal 1 Tiger? Only if the Shermans explode. What if they don't? Then it's not 5-to-1. It's 5-to-1, round 1. 4-to-1, round 2. 3-to-1, round 3. And eventually, it's 5 Shermans with veteran crews versus 1 Tiger, with an exhausted crew that's been fighting non-stop for 8 days. Math doesn't win wars. People do. And Wet-Stowage brought the people home. That's the story Michael Whitman never lived to understand. But Roy Bowers did. And so did 5,420 other men whose names you'll never know, whose faces you'll never see, who lived full lives because someone put water around the ammunition. Just water. But water in the right place, at the right time. Implemented by the right people. That's not luck. That's genius. The kind of genius that doesn't make headlines. The kind that just brings people home. At the right time. Implemented by the right people. That's not luck. That's genius. The kind of genius that doesn't make headlines. The kind that just brings people home.